But before we keep going, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, one of the biggest mobile role-playing games at this point in time, and it's completely free. You can get it on iOS and Android. Currently it has millions of users playing, and I can totally see why. It's easily one of the most impressive games of its class. Now, one of the more interesting aspects of this game is its champions. The whole idea of customizing and collecting champions is really cool, and as of right now, my favorite champions are generally from the Dwarven faction, mainly because this faction in particular has a lot of variety and the designs are pretty clean. And the lore of these guys are very interesting as well. They are the third race made during the time of creation. They have a very interesting caste system, mainly composing of delvers, craftsmen, nobility, and priesthood. It wasn't long ago that the demon forces tried to invade the Dwarven kingdom, which ultimately resulted with the dwarves marching up to the surface to join the common cause to defeat the great evil. So this game is obviously rich in lore as well, and that's just one aspect. There's many things to do. There's PvP, challenges, clans that you can join. The list doesn't end. Recently there's been a lot of special events, activities, including a Halloween theme update that will be taking place at the end of this month, with big rewards, tournaments against each other, and of course new legendary champions. There is a lot going on. If you want to get a huge head start in Raid, all you have to do is hit the link in the description or scan my QR code and you'll get an epic hero, Trinoru, who is amazing in Doom Tower. 200k silver as well, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. You'll be able to find your extra rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. And again, links will be in the description and I will see you guys there. Now, at this point in time, I think it's very likely that Luffy has most likely developed a new form, and there's several reasons as to why that is. The first and the biggest reason is that he's currently fighting one of the strongest fighters in the verse, and it's only natural to see a new form given Luffy's track record of fighting a main arc villain. Gear 4th in Dressrosa, Snake Man in Whole Cake, and finally for Kaido, he seems to have something new because Luffy currently doesn't have anything that we know of that can beat Kaido as of right now. So how exactly is this going to play out? Now before we keep going, I would appreciate it if you drop that like on this video. Let's go for 500 likes and subscribe if you're new here. Now another reason is that Luffy has obtained new forms of Haki, specifically Armament Haki and Conquerors. Having achieved advanced levels in both forms, it's safe to say that he is most likely going to incorporate these things into his new form. And I do also want to mention that we don't necessarily know if it's going to be a completed form of Gear 4th or Luffy actually creating a Gear 5. And I also remember people saying that it might be too early for Gear 5 to be revealed, as that is something some people think should be reserved for Blackbeard. Now, while I do agree with that to some degree, Kaido is still a Yonko and is probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest character right now. And for Luffy to defeat him, Luffy absolutely needs a new gear. Gear 4th is not going to be enough for Kaido, even with the Conqueror's coding. Granted, I do still think that Gear 4th has been buffed due to Luffy having more mastery in Armament Haki, which we have to remember is the foundation for Gear 4th. So Luffy having mastery in Armament Haki improves Gear 4th by default. And then there's also Conqueror's Haki, which will probably take Gear 4th's attack power to a whole new level. So Gear 4th is probably on a different level right now, but even then I don't think that's still going to be enough for Kaido. And this is mainly because I think Kaido has an awakened form that we haven't seen yet, and it's going to be very special because this is an awakening for a mythical Zoan, right? So we don't know what that entails, and it might be completely different from awakenings of normal Zoans. And again, I do talk about this in a separate video. So I don't think that hybrid form is the end all be all for Kaido as of right now. There's more to his abilities. Now this is the sequence of events that I see playing out in terms of Kaido and Luffy's forms. So as of right now, Luffy is in base form while Kaido is in hybrid. Now, even though they seem to be equal right now, I think it's safe to make the assumption that Kaido still has the edge, even though Luffy had that Conqueror's Haki clash with Kaido a few chapters ago. And I say this because it's happened before, where Luffy gets on a similar level as Kaido, kind of making us think that Luffy will probably be alright, but over time he gets overwhelmed, which is what happened before. And so even though Luffy came back stronger this time, I still think that base form Luffy is still inferior to hybrid Kaido, whereas Whereas if this battle gets extended, Luffy will eventually get overwhelmed like last time and get defeated. But that wouldn't happen this time because I genuinely believe that Luffy was testing out his abilities before putting everything out. This time around, Luffy does actually intend on going Gear 4th and whatever form that he has to show next. So this is how I see it playing out. Base Luffy fights Hybrid Kaido, but Kaido has the edge, and for Luffy to gain the advantage, he goes into Gear 4th. And this is where Kaido gets overwhelmed because Luffy has better control of Armament Haki and Conquerors, and it's very likely that this Gear 4th form might have a different name because it's using Conquerors Haki. Some people think that this is going to be Tiger Man or something of that nature. And so with this form, I think Hybrid Kaido gets overwhelmed. Now, for Kaido to regain his composure, he uses Awakening. Now, we don't know what happens when a mythical awakens, but it's probably going to be overpowered. Now, whether or not he changes in appearance in this form, we don't know. But we do know that it's probably going to be a big power up for Kaido. All his stats will probably go up a level, including his ability to manipulate the weather, lightning, fire, all of that, right? And this is where he dominates Gear 4th Luffy. And so with Luffy being on the verge of defeat, he takes it up to his final level, Gear 5. And this is where it's eventually going to come to a standstill till someone wins the battle. Awaken Kaido versus Gear 5 Luffy. And so that's how I see the sequence of events playing out. Now, even though it's going to be pretty amazing seeing Luffy have this power up, there's something that we have to realize here, something that's actually kind of scary to think about, but it's always something that we've seen time and time again when it comes to Luffy's forms, and that is the drawbacks. Every time Luffy gets a completely new power-up, there's some sort of condition attached to it. Once we do see Gear 5, it's going to be super inefficient and incomplete. It's only after a certain amount of time that Luffy will obtain mastery in said form. Gear 2nd, when he first used it, we learned that he was essentially losing his lifespan. He was forcing his body to do something that doesn't normally happen. But over the course of 2 years, he gained more stamina to maintain this form and is able to use Gear 2nd more efficiently by turning it on and off depending on if he's fighting or not. Gear 3rd came with a drawback that we haven't seen since the time skip, and that is Luffy turning smaller. It seems like Luffy has completely mastered this form because we don't see its drawbacks at all. Then we come to Gear 4th. This is a form that is insanely taxing for Luffy's body due to the overuse of Armament Haki, which leaves him very vulnerable after a certain amount of time, which in some cases he has to run away. It also leaves him with the inability to use Haki for 10 minutes. Now, Luffy has obtained some mastery in Gear 4th ever since the raid started, in which he's able to go into Gear 4th and come out of it for a brief moment. But we did see that when used for an extended period of time, the 10-minute Haki limitation is still there. Now, with his newfound mastery in Armament Haki, we need to see how Luffy performs, but overall Gear 4th is still not mastered, but he's getting close. And finally, we come to Gear 5. Now, we don't know what this form will entail, but this form will most likely use every form of Haki and put it on blast. So Conquerors, Observation, Armament is just going to be out there. And so it's safe to say that this will be the most taxing form we will ever see from Luffy, whereas the drawback of this form is going to be immense, and it could have long-term ramifications as well, perhaps even opening up the idea of how Luffy dies at the end of the story. Luffy losing lifespan has been a thing that's been reoccurring over the course of the story, so Gear 5 might amplify that. So Gear 5 is probably going to be very godlike, but the after effects are going to be very taxing for Luffy. And we also have to take into account that this isn't a fresh Luffy using it. Yamato states that Luffy is barely standing, so a weakened Luffy is going to be using Gear 5. So we're probably going to have a near-death experience for Luffy, just like we did back in Enies Lobby. And in this case, against someone like Kaido, it's probably going to be a lot worse. And again, this could most likely tie back to the 1% thing that Hawkins mentioned about a certain individual having a low percentage of surviving. I think it was 1%, and I think that individual is most likely Luffy that he's referring to there. Now, some people think it was X-Drake, but I highly doubt that. We do also know that Hawkins did also try to predict Luffy's chances of surviving back in Marineford, so I'd say it's very possible that Luffy is the individual that's been referenced there. And so when the battle against Kaido is over, the main goal of the alliance would then be to protect Luffy, and this is where I think individuals like Yamato Minato, Momonosuke, and possibly the entire Straw Hats come into play and defend Luffy from the enemy, right? We know that the Cypher Pole are making their way here, and there are some Cypher Pole members already in Wano, so we need a lot of people to defend Luffy once his battle with Kaido was over. And it would kind of mirror the events of Thriller Bark, where we had Kuma come at the end when they defeated Moria. I think something similar is going to play out here as well, because Luffy is usually out cold at the end of his fights, and especially for a fight of this caliber, yeah, I'd say Luffy is going to be passed out for sure. Until when Kaido is defeated, the alliance still has work to do, and protecting Luffy from outside forces will be priority. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I would appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video, subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel, comment down below what you guys think. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ferrispace. But it is fair, guys, and I will see you folks later. Peace.